Well, good morning and hello. I have a very special guest with me today. Not only a special guest, a very long-time friend. This is Susan Chapman. She is a financial advisor, and today we're going to be talking about financial health. So welcome, my friend. Hello, thanks for being here.
Hello, thank you so much for inviting me today.
And it's really interesting because we both have on suit jackets, or at least blazers, that look very pro. So this doesn't happen all the time, but you know, I thought I would, for old time's sake, put on this jacket. For those of you tuning in that don't know my history, for most of my life, I was in corporate finance as a financial advisor. So I'm putting on the old monkey suit. Actually, it's a little bit more cool than what I used to wear. It's got velvet and it's funky. But this is how Sue and I met. Probably, oh my gosh, it's maybe like 24 years ago now. We worked for the same company.
Yeah.
So we've been colleagues for many years, and of course I've since left, and we've remained very, very good friends. So Sue has a very special message, I believe, about not only what she's doing in the finance world, but what her quest has become and her specialty. And I think where her heart is pulling her and has pulled her is to the financial health, particularly for women. So that's a conversation that we want to dive into today, because it is truly very different, which we'll find out, I believe, I hope, from Sue. So before we get going, Sue, I think it would be helpful if you just take a moment to introduce yourself to the group. Tell us, a little bit of your background, how you got into finance. Yeah, so let's hear your own personal origin or introduction story.
Okay, thank you. Good morning, everyone. I wanted to thank Charlene for giving me the opportunity to speak to you this morning. I'll just tell you a little bit about myself. I received my Bachelor of Commerce degree from McMaster University in 1988. Yes, I know I'm dating myself a little there. But after graduation, I worked in customer service, actually in Brampton, for a packaging company, and I was inside sales and marketing. And at that time, I wanted to start saving for my retirement, although I knew little at the time about it. I didn't know where to start. I didn't know where to go. So that particular year, I wanted to make an RSP contribution. So I went into the bank and I said, I'd like to make my RSP contribution for this year. And basically they said to me, okay, what term of GIC would you like? And I was, well, I don't really want a GIC. What are my other options? And the woman behind the counter just kind of looked at me and she pulled out this brochure, and it was a brochure on mutual funds. And she said, okay, well then take this home, read it over, decide what you want, and come back and tell us what you want, and we'll get that for you. And at the time I thought, there must be an easier way than this. I felt there must be a better way. So I've always enjoyed helping people. I've always been interested in money. My sisters used to laugh at me because they would come to borrow money off of me because I always saved it in my piggy bank. And I always knew if they took money from my piggy bank, and I would charge them interest. I would say, you borrowed $5 from me, so you owe me like $5.50. And they used to laugh at me. So kind of getting into the finance industry was, I kind of fell into it actually. So I felt that there was a big opportunity to help people, because if I felt that way, that I didn't know where to go, I didn't know where to get help, I felt there must be other people out there that kind of felt the same way. So as a result, I started my career in financial planning. So I earned my certified financial planning designation. I took my securities course so that I could actually offer securities and bonds and other investments to my clients. And I am also fully licensed in insurance. So that includes disability insurance, life insurance, and critical illness. So I really enjoy working in partnership with my clients to build a pathway to their financial security and success. I've been doing this for almost 28 years now. And I work with clients to help them build a plan that guides them right from the beginning of their lives. So the accumulation part up to them building wealth. And then I help them with the transition into retirement, which includes a proper strategy to help them draw down their retirement savings in the most tax efficient manner possible.
Thank you for that. I mean, I know your story, but I think people watching that don't know you don't know that story. But
Right.
I can attest firsthand that you are in the perfect career with your attention to detail, and particularly about money. So yes, and also coming from that industry, I know that it's all about relationships and how you are. I mean, you have relationships with your clients that have been 28 years, as long as you've been in the industry. So
Yes.
you're a very trusted source for your clients. I do know that firsthand. And, I think very genuine and authentic. It's coming from that industry. And I hope I can say this in a safe space where I know firsthand it's a very male dominated industry. And particularly when you started before I did, but particularly back then, 20 something years ago. And even today, it's still very male dominant, as is the entire world, actually. Like there's a lot of masculine energy, particularly in the corporate world. So having a female as an advisor, I know firsthand, because we totally act differently and respond differently. Sadly, the motivations are often very different too when you're dealing with a male advisor versus a female advisor, where we as women tend to be more like nurturing, compassionate, and all-encompassing, rather than just get the sale and move on, and just about the material aspect, or what can I gain from this situation. And because let's be real, that's out there. And for those of you watching, maybe you're in that situation yourself, I don't know, but it's very prevalent. And I think, like any professional relationship, finding someone that can know, like, and trust, that's really what sets up the relationship for long-term, any long-term relationship, and communication, like that's really key. So I know that firsthand, working with you, that who you are as a person, and that just reflects into your long-term relationships and why people keep dealing with you and trust you. So I know your heart is behind it and not just in it for the money, even though it's about money. It's not for the money.
Right.
So I want to ask you, like, what made you, I know you pivoted in the last while about like having your focus particularly on women. So what made you focus now on women in your financial career?
So I think you're correct. Women advisors are more empathetic to people's situations. So I think that's a huge thing. And basically, I wanted to focus on women in my career because I believed, again, there's a lot of women out there that felt the same way that I did, like 28, 29 years ago. I didn't know where to go. And I ended up, I did go to a financial advisor. Actually, it was 1987, just before the market crash. And I put in like $5,000 of, my money, which was a big chunk of money back then. And of course, the market corrected. I never heard from this guy. Only thing is, I knew I needed to keep the money invested. I couldn't pull it out because it was down. I knew I had to keep it invested. And I actually did that. I kept it invested I never did really take it out. And of course, the money came back and did very, very well. But I knew that. I never heard from the advisor. He never gave me any advice. So I feel that there's a lot of people out there, but there's also a lot of women out there that just don't know where to go for advice, and they may not feel comfortable with who they're dealing with, or they want to feel comfortable with who they're dealing with. And a neat statistic about women is 90% of us at one point in our lives are going to be the sole decision maker for our finances. So that's either through divorce, whether it's a personal preference, or whether it's the death of a spouse. So this makes it very important for women to actually take control of their finances and have a bit of interest in it. And I understand that the financial industry can come across as very complex and maybe a little overwhelming. So I feel my role is to explain it to you in a very simple way. And I'm always there to answer any questions that you have, because you're going to have a lot of questions. In general, women tend to be a little less confident about managing their finances. And generally, that's the main reasons that I want to actually deal with women. I think we need to empower ourselves. We need to know how to manage finances. And the unfortunate thing is they don't really teach you this in school, right? So we don't learn any of this. So for us, it tends to be a little bit overwhelming. We don't understand it. We're afraid maybe to even ask for help. So my goal is to let you know that there's help out there. And my philosophy is I'm there to help, I'm there to educate. And I always say, if you like what I have to say, that's great. If you don't, that's fine as well. It's your choice, it's your money, it's your decision.
Thank you for that. Yeah, I'm just unpacking all of that, and I can attest to, from being in that industry, and had I not dive deep and made it a career, I don't know what other way I would have learned about it, because it's something that seems like, as you said, it can seem overwhelming and stuffy and very corporate, and it's just like a lot of jargon, particularly if you don't know,
Yeah.
what that is.
Yes.
And the flip side, I get now, being out of that financial industry, I was in it, knee deep or neck deep. Yeah, probably up to my chin deep, or maybe to my nose deep for a long time. So since I've left, I'm completely the opposite kind of client. I don't want to know. I've spent so much time tapped in and turned on to that environment that now with an advisor, I'm like, I don't know, where do you want me to sign? Whatever, I trust you. I know you, you're going to give me the best advice. So there is an in-between, right? Where you can take a little bit of interest and know what's going on versus,
Well,
I've been at both ends of the spectrum.
and that's the flip side of it, right? If you don't have an interest in it, then you just need to make sure that you're working with somebody that you trust and that you're comfortable with, right?
Yeah. So I read an interesting stat about, we as women, and I never used to think of myself as a feminist, but you know what? Damn it, I'm a fucking feminist. I said fuck. Oh my god. All right. Well, there it is.
It's
I'm
okay.
a feminist in the sense that, I think there's an imbalance between the masculine and feminine energy, particularly across the globe, and that's just a blanket statement. So there's a lot of work we can do. So part of my quest as empowering women is, I'm trying to do it from a health and wellness perspective and coaching perspective and confidence. But we, as a rule, make less, and that's what I prompted the F-bomb was
Mm-hmm.
the stat about how much less money we make as females versus men. So the accumulation years and time is going to be far greater for a woman than ever for a man. And particularly and I don't know, I know we're not talking about this, and it's maybe a little bit too far deep, but I know a ton of single women, and maybe that's because I'm single, so I know a lot of single women. But how you accumulate funds when you're single versus in a joint relationship, or there's two of you, is really skewed as well, right? So you don't have that, first of all, the earning power that men do, but also the accumulation power, because you don't have the same amount of assets working for you, or, helping your everyday living. Because let's face it, as a single person, we still have essentially the same amount of living costs, right? Almost. You know, maybe you spend more on water or hydro or a little bit more on groceries, but basically we have some fundamental kind of similarities. So I think the topic of financial health is really important. Yes, particularly as a female, and even more so if you're a single female.
Absolutely.
So do you, like, what's your take? How does gender play a role into the accumulation of wealth or financial planning?
So it definitely does. And just for the reasons that you were just saying. So as a general statement, most women aren't prepared for a rainy day. So it's more important for them to plan, and fewer women do. So typically the role of financial planning, if you are with someone, tends to go to the spouse and you rely on them to make all the financial decisions. Again, typically women do earn less, and there's a statistic out there that says on average women earn about 26% less than men do. Now the tides are turning there because more and more women are becoming educated, more women are becoming the primary income earner within the household, but still there is this huge discrepancy between our incomes, and typically retired senior women have much lower incomes in retirement than senior men do. And it's just a fact. So it becomes more and more important for women to take an interest in their finances and start to plan. The other issue is women tend to either work part-time, either because they take a break to care for their children or their aging parents. And the other interesting stat is women on average outlive their spouse by about 10 to 15 years. So we're living longer, we're earning less. You know, we as females still tend to take on more of the household chores as well. So all of that just means that it's more and more important for us to take that active role to make sure that we're going to be okay for retirement. And that whatever that means to you, because it's different things to different people, but it's very, very important for us to take that interest for mainly just for those reasons.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then, you know, the financial part of me is coming back to the surface of, like, yeah, inflation, things continue to go up, of course. So
Yes.
yeah, there's all of that, and I don't have any scientific data and, you know, research, but from my years in finance, I guess it was probably over 20 years in finance. I can attest to, just from the clients that I had, like, you know, the few hundred clients that I had, majority, I don't know, if I had to give it a blanket number, probably about 90-ish% of couples that I dealt with, it was the responsibility of the male partner, generally speaking.
Yes.
Generally,
Yeah.
who made the decisions or who oversaw it. I mean, of course, there's, you know, variance to that, but I know we're talking very typical kind of, you know, blanket statements here, but all that to say, we should all be invested, or invested in our own financial health, because that's one thing that's not going away.
Yes.
We are going to need some form of currency to trade to get the things that we need that we don't have, right? Whether that's housing or food or clothes, car,
Right.
transportation. So I know we talk a lot about, and the direction now is like fiat currency and blockchain currency and getting away from dollars. But
Mhm.
at the end of the day, we still need something to trade. So yeah. So are there any tips that you have for women, particularly, that where they can help ramp up their own financial health?
Absolutely. So I think to start with, like, they need to establish a purpose for their investment plan. So generally what I do when I meet with somebody is, first of all, we work on what their financial goals are, their timelines, and they need to be realistic about their expectations. So we focus on the goal. So whether that's retiring early, or maybe paying off a mortgage, maybe it's saving for a child's education, whatever their particular goal might be, we focus on that and we dive into it. So, why is it important? Where do you want to be in the future? How do you see your retirement? Do you want to travel? Do you want to play golf? What is it that you actually want to do in retirement? So I take some time going over that with a client, because I think that's actually one of the most important areas that we need to focus on. And then from there, we kind of take a snapshot of where they stand today financially. So what their assets are, what their liabilities are, what life insurance do they have, what kind of group coverage do they have. It's interesting because if people have group coverage at work, they know they have it, but they don't know what they have. And it's interesting when we delve into that. And it's important to know that, right? Because you think, oh, nothing's ever going to happen to me. But what if it does? Like, you need to know what kind of coverage you have. You need to know what's going to happen if something does happen to you, right? So from there, and we even go through a little bit of a budget. And I know doing a budget is not fun, but it's just a good process to go through so that you discover where your money's actually going. So what are your expenses that are static? So maybe it might be your mortgage payment, might be your utilities. And then what are your spending that you can maybe cut back on? So it might be, I stop at McDonald's for a coffee every morning, or Tim's for a coffee every morning. And it's okay to do that sort of thing, but all of that adds up over time as well. So maybe making a coffee at home and taking in a travel mug might help you save a little bit. So we just look at different ways of maybe, cutting back on some of your expenses. And then we create a process. So what can we do to help you achieve those goals? And it might be just as simple as saying, I'm going to put away X amount of money per month into an RSP or into a tax-free savings account. So basically, you're going to pay yourself first. And if you do that, what happens is it just becomes a regular expense for you. And after a while, you don't even miss that money coming out of your bank account. And the old rule of thumb was actually, okay, maybe save 10% of your income. Now they're actually saying you probably need to save 15 to 20% of your income. But you don't have to start with that. Like, the first thing is just to start and get going. Just do whatever you feel you're comfortable doing. And you can always increase it or decrease that amount if you need to. But at least you're starting to save, and that money's going to start to grow and compound for you, and it's going to start to accumulate for you. So again, obviously working with a financial advisor is going to help you keep on track as well. So we're going to look at what your risk tolerance is and help you create that plan. There's also an interesting stat that says investors have 3.9 times more assets if they work with an advisor over a 15-year period than the people that don't work with a financial advisor. So we're able to help you keep on track. We're able to help you get through market ups and downs when you might think, oh my God, the market's gone down, it's crashing, I'm going to lose all my money. We're here to help you get through that and to help you keep on track to your long-term goals. I also wanted to mention, I have this, it's a neat little worksheet, and it's actually geared towards women. And anybody that wants this worksheet, let Charlene or I know, and I can forward it on to you, and it would be a great place to start. So what it will do is it'll actually help you lay the foundation for creating a financial plan, or maybe redefine the current financial plan that you have. And it also helps you realize some of the commonalities that you might have with women across Canada. So Again, I have this worksheet that's available. It might be a great place just to start. You don't even have to contact a financial advisor if you don't want to, but it's something I'll offer. I can send it to you. It's free. If you want me to review it with you, I'm also available to do that for you.
Thanks, Sue. That's great. You know, as you're speaking there, all these old financial things are coming to the surface for me. It's quite interesting. I've been out of that industry for so long, but I think what you're saying about like the simple act of just budgeting and going back to my financial years, like it's never, okay, it's not often an income problem that people have. It's a
Right.
spending problem.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yes.
And
Absolutely.
I've seen that with my most wealthiest clients. Like as your income level increases, your standard of living changes and your expectations and the things that you have. And then, so even though you could be making, you know, multiple six figures into the seven figures, like so too are your spending habits. So there's
Absolutely.
always something that you can take a look at and rejig. And I think exactly what you said, it really comes down to priority, right? Like even when I compare this to health, like, you know, we get to pick the hard in health in terms of staying in an uncomfortable situation in a painful body where you're not sleeping. You have all these health issues going on, you have this excess weight versus the difficulty of making the transition to following, you know, a more regimented plan or doing things that are actually more habit forming and good for you, right?
Mhm.
So each of those are difficult. Staying where you are is difficult, but also moving forward can feel like pain too. So
Mhm.
it's rewiring, I guess, right? So um, yeah, and I'll just mention too the other term that I've been kind of subjected to lately, which I really love, and I don't know if this is helpful to anybody or not, but this idea of retirement. You've said retirement because I think that's, you know, a lot of people's objective, this retirement, you know, to stop working. And I think that comes with this old philosophy and this old story of where people were working at jobs they actually hated just to make the money so that they can get the hell out of there, you know, put in their 30 years and get out.
Right.
So this glory idea of retirement. But I think as we evolve as a society and get more heart-centered, people are really saying like, okay, I'm going to retire, but then what? Like, what's my purpose to wake up? Right. And I know you and I have had this conversation many times
Yes.
over wine,
Yes.
but maybe it's not retirement. Maybe it's pro-retirement. Like you're doing something that you actually love and it's not about the money.
Right.
So wouldn't that be cool? Maybe that's the objective, that, you know, you can get to a place where you have enough income or assets that you don't need to rely on the money. You can actually do something that you love, particularly if you're in a situation that you don't. So I'll offer that to anybody that's listening, if that's helpful, to maybe flip that in your mind, that it could be a happy day that you, yes, rather than retirement, you sit back and
Yes.
do nothing,
Yeah.
pro-tired. Thanks for the offer of this worksheet. I'll link up how to do that in the comments wherever you're watching this from. But maybe this would be a good time if people do want to find you, Sue. Where can people find you? How do they find you?
So I do have a website, and it's susanchapman.ca. Or also you can email me at schapman@asante.com. And also I guess I'll leave my phone number as well. It's 905-319-6366, and I'm extension 127.
Oh, I thought you were giving everybody your cell phone number.
No.
I'm kidding. I can link that up in the comments wherever you're watching this too. So if you want to find out more about Sue. Lastly, this is a fun little question that I ask a lot of my guests. What is your, okay, what do you think? What's your superpower?
Why did I know you were going to ask me that question?
We all have one. We just may not know it.
Yeah, so I'm not really sure if I actually have a superpower, but
Does that mean you have many?
huh?
Does that mean you have many?
Oh, yeah, exactly. That's what it is. I can't decide which one to pick.
No, it's honestly probably true. There's many. But which one's coming to the surface for you right now?
So really what I can tell you is that what I love about what I do is just helping people. And, uh, it's not about, for me, it's not about how much money you have to invest. I actually get more pleasure, I guess, out of helping people that need help, right? And um, there's nothing I enjoy more than being able to empower somebody, especially women, in helping them achieve their financial goals and allowing them to have a better life for them and their families in the future. And, you know, uh, I'll tell you a little story. Just right around Christmas, I got an email from a client, long time client I've had for years. And it was a wonderful email that I received from them. And they were thanking me for everything that I had done for them over the last 27 years and how grateful they were that they had met me. And I've saved this email because I read that email and I'm like, oh my God, like this is really what it's all about for me, and it just touched me so much that they even took the time to tell me, because most times you think it, but you don't really tell somebody. Um, so for me, that like I can't ask for anything more than that, right? Just knowing that I've helped them throughout their lives. They're well into retirement now, but we've been able to pull their money out in a tax efficient manner. Um, they're just so thankful that everything I've done for them. And that warms my heart, right? I can't, like I said, I can't ask for anything more than that.
So nice. Yes, especially to get acknowledged and recognized and thanks. Like, yes.
Yeah.
For those of you that have a financial advisor, you may not know that as an advisor, it's a thankless job. It really is.
Some
It,
days it can be,
yeah,
but
I
other
mean,
days, it's very rewarding.
yeah. So yeah, maybe if you do love your advisor, send them some love. Give them a heart. Give them a virtual hug. They need it too. Yeah, because
Yes.
the markets are tough. I mean, and we didn't really get into that, and I don't know if it's too late, but I don't know. Do you have a minute?
Sure.
Like what has changed with the landscape from like where we are now versus pre-vid, pre-COVID? What do you notice?
So COVID really has affected women again in particular because women tend to work in hospitality or nonprofit, or they've opted to stay home to look after their children, or again, even aging parents through this pandemic. So this has become a huge burden on women again. And it's affected the lower income women in particular. So they've actually, and I don't know if you've heard this term, they're actually calling this she session. And they feel that this pandemic is gonna, it's pivotal in shaping history for women. So again, it reiterates why women need the financial industry more now than ever. And we, in our industry, we actually need to step it up for women because, as you mentioned before, it's been a total male dominated industry. And it's changing. There's more and more female advisors in the industry. But we need to step it up so that we're advising and we're servicing women better than we have in the past. And again, for this reason, COVID has totally affected women, I would say, more than men. Not that it hasn't affected men, but just for the reasons that, you know, we tend to work in industries that have been affected by this pandemic. So it has created a burden.
Yeah. And sadly, I mean, this pandemic has touched everyone's lives in
Yeah.
some way. Like, of course, we're all differently, perhaps. But
Yes.
um, do you think do you think it's like changed the landscape of the financial world in terms of, I don't know, like how people are investing, where profits are being generated from it, like, you know, having some insight um, into companies'
Mhm.
earnings, and having studied that and been in that field for a long time, like you have to believe that at some level the companies that were making money before, perhaps it's going to be different in terms of how it's made or the amounts that are made, and you know where the wealth has shifted from a different sector, different industry. Like, do you see any of those kind of trends happening right now?
Well, absolutely. So, you're seeing companies like Amazon totally benefit from what's going on. A lot of,
Dominate the whole, yes.
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 And there's been a select few companies that have totally benefited from the pandemic. And there's a handful of them, right? Like there's Spotify or Shopify, Amazon. Um, they they're totally benefiting from it. A lot of tech companies are benefiting from it because we are now working more from home. So companies have had to set up their employees at home with computers and printers and monitors and Zoom.
Yeah.
So
Oh, could you? Yeah.
all the virtual meetings, any company like that has done incredible through this, where you're seeing things like the travel industry obviously not doing very well, right?
Mhm.
So it has totally affected and shifted it. But what that also reiterates is, how do you know what companies to invest in, right? So I'm on webinars pretty much on a daily basis. And when this hit, the pandemic last year, roughly around this time, um, a lot of the fund managers actually went through their list of companies that they are invested in, and they said, okay, this company's going to benefit from it, this one isn't. So the ones that they felt were not going to do very well, they sold them off and then bought more of the companies that they thought were going to do really, really well. So what that says is that you need to be a stock picker in this environment, which is not easy for the average person to do, right? You might be able to do it once or twice, but you're not going to be able to do it on a regular basis. So again, working with professionals that are in it on a daily basis, that know what to buy and sell and when to, um, it's made a huge difference in whether you've done well over the past year or not, and it's going to in the future, because the markets today are volatile. So they're going up and down, quite rapidly on a daily basis. So how do you know which one to go into, right? So working with professionals that know what they're doing, that have teams that are focused on research, um, makes a huge difference in your whole portfolio.
Yeah. And I'm gonna just, I'm gonna, I mean, the market in its natural state is always fluctuating and it's confusing and nothing is making sense these days with the pandemic, and even more so now, I think how it affects the financial market and the stock market, and not only in Canada but across the globe. And I think, you know, my financial planner coming out in me right now too is like, most people that I dealt with, you know, of course, are Canadian. So we have these blinders on and we think that we only invest in these Canadian stocks because this is kind of what we know. But there's a whole world out there in terms of global companies that aren't situated from Canada. So having access to that is, I mean, most people don't take the time to research, you know, what's going on in Israel or India, or like there's profitable companies everywhere, not just in Canada.
Absolutely.
But we look at very domestic kind of investments. But I'm just going to layer one other thing onto this, and this is because, you know, my direction in the last more than 10 years now is very holistic. So my my ideals and my vision and my preferences have changed tremendously. So what used to be an attraction just because something was profitable to make money, for me, yes, of course you want your investments to grow, but for me, I would much rather make money from an ethical perspective, and my ethics may change from someone else's. So what I think is ethical and what I want to support, it's not just to gain a 20% return. It's how are they making that money, and who is um, who is feeding into that profitable, like who is suffering for them, that company, to make that profit. And those are the questions that I ask myself now. And particularly, no offense, Amazon, like
Mhm.
I don't want anything to do with it. And that's maybe a conversation for another time, but you know, back in my day, it was like, what are ethical investments? You know, maybe companies that don't support guns or nicotine or alcohol, but the ethics have changed tremendously. The landscape, I believe, has changed tremendously, particularly now with the pandemic. And there is a big transference of wealth into some very large dominating companies that are kind of like monopolizing the entire world and globe. Like think about Google, think about Amazon, Facebook, like these are big deals. So I don't know, do you want to make the money? Okay, but how do you feel at the end of the day in supporting something of that level? So that's just a question I'm going to throw out there for people to maybe answer and check in with their own gut and their heart. Like, again, you need to pick your priority, right? Is it just the accumulation of wealth, or do you want to do it in a sustainable and, you know, heartfelt way? So
Well, and sorry to interrupt, but that's a huge movement. Like we're seeing that in our industry, that more and more people are feeling that way. So there are tons of companies now that just invest ethically, right? And you know, social responsibility. So it's a huge movement in our industry, and it is something that obviously I've been adopting over the last few years as well, for clients that want it, right? So what's interesting about that is the industry is recognizing that and offering more products for us to offer to our clients that want it.
yeah, in which it just takes some more scrutiny, and, you know, and perhaps people that are interested in that type of philosophy, like, you know, dig a little, do some of your own research as
Mhm.
well. Like, of
Mhm.
course, working with a professional, they have research teams and, you know, people with their finger on the pulse all the time. But if that's, I mean, like anything, I think, you know, you need to take some level of an interest into
Right,
your own financial health.
right.
Um, all right. I know we can probably talk for hours, and we will over wine. We will. But thank you very much for your insight. And honestly, I know your genuine interest in particularly helping women. I know that's been, I don't know, maybe at least 5 years, that maybe more now, that's
Yeah,
been the direction you've been taking. So
yeah.
I love that you're doing that. And I love that women have someone like you, or not only women, but someone that is a female that comes to the table with a different type of perspective,
Mhm.
and um, and is in it for something other than the money. So thank you for that, and thanks for sharing your time. I'm so glad that you joined me here today. That wasn't that bad, right?
No, thank you so much for inviting me. It was fun.
My pleasure. And I'll link up your details below so people can find you. And I'll wish you all well. We went way over what I thought we would, but okay, we're going to sign off and say bye for now.
Okay, thank
Thank
you.